I met him at Elite.
Okay.
Yeah, so he came to one of my talks there, and then we just sort of connected there. So it was cool. Yeah, he's a cool guy. How do you know him?
Yeah, I know him through just the martial arts community, and we're in the same we're in the same area. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
And what about Burak? Did you meet any of the other guys down there?
I think I briefly met Burak, and just like a few of Vinny's friends there. But
Okay. Cool.
like if we weren't in lockdown, I'd be there a lot more. You know.
Yeah, dude, lockdown. What can we do? It would have been nice to have it in Collingwood, but the place was a little bit booked out this morning. They got some construction works going on there.
Yeah.
They're building a whole new like dormitory upstairs, so it'd be a bit too noisy. But bro, super happy to have you on. Like having a look at your Instagram and whatnot, the first thing that stood out was the fact that everything was so legitimate. You know, I think it's hard to get that balance in this kind of area where there's things that like either like pretty aesthetically pleasing or they do really well on the marketing end, but the information's not there. But dude, so comprehensive. You have journal articles referenced. It's crazy, bro. A lot of effort going into it.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for that.
Like the structure for kind of how we run the podcast is it's pretty free flowing. We have, of course, like done a little bit of research and looked into your website, which is spot on. Like it's fantastic, and have a few little questions that we both have from a personal basis, but also things we feel people would be keen to hear about and understand. But once we get those out of the way, which is pretty soon, we just kind of flow and just go with where the conversation goes from there.
Sounds good. With your audience, like, are they mostly like Australia wide, and like, what are they mostly like men or?
Yeah. So 70% of them are men from the age of 18 to 25. And they're pretty well in the fitness industry as well, usually martial arts, but sort of around that target area.
And it's a small audience, but they're all like it's a legitimate audience. So all the people there usually, you know, follow us individually or through our martial arts journey, and they keep track of it through the podcast.
Yeah, awesome. How many episodes have you guys done?
This will be the 19th one with a guest and the 25th in total.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're almost running on a year now. So it's becoming something quite special actually.
Good on you guys. Yeah.
Thank
if
you.
you need help promoting or anything, just we'll have a chat after the show.
For sure.
I can help. Yeah.
We'll tee up all the links, all that stuff towards the end, and then we'll have it all sorted, and we'll probably put it out. What's the date today? The 19th. So we'll probably put it out on the following Sunday. So not on the 25th, the one after, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No worries. That sounds good.
Yeah, and definitely, cheers for that, bro. Happy to pick your brain at the end about that, because you definitely know what you're doing on that front with your own podcast and whatnot. So keen to see your thoughts on that. Good.
Of course.
Awesome. So
let us know when you're ready, and we'll just kick it off with just a brief introduction and background of yourself, and then we'll just get straight into it.
Cool. All right, I'm good to go. Yep. Right. Yeah. So I guess many of your listeners will probably know like that I'm the founder of Ergogenic Health. Basically got into this with just a passion into sort of understanding the body, how we can sort of optimize human performance. And I've got a pretty extensive like soccer background. So I played professional soccer for many years, and just fell in love with experimenting and trialing different things to improve my performance. And then that sort of escalated into like developing my own Instagram where it is now, and then my own website. So my mission is really just to provide health information that is like very unique. You know, that's my main goal.
Perfect. And your background, so you've got some sort of degree in naturopathy and nootropics, or?
Yeah, so I studied a year and a half of exercise science, and then transferred over into my naturopathy degree, which I'm in my final trimester now. So
right.
Finished. Yeah, almost finished.
Actually,
how are you finding that? Are you studying over throughout COVID?
Oh, so everything's sort of been like put on hold. Like we can't see clients face to face. So unfortunately that's been delayed, but yeah, it hasn't really affected me in terms of like business and stuff. So it's fine.
Awesome. I was having a look at your website, and the first thing that stood out to me was the name. And then the introduction that you put on there explained the name Ergogenic pretty well. It was pretty interesting. Can you, like, I guess, just tell us a little bit about Ergogenic and what it actually means?
Yeah, sure. So I fell in love with the term a long time, actually probably like 5 years ago, when I was looking up, of course, as a youngster, looking into like supplements to, supplements for the gym, like muscle growth, recovery, things like that. Then I found that word ergogenic. And then I realized that basically just means any sort of technique, substance, or compound that can improve physiological or psychological performance. So I was like, this is cool. I want to like delve into what else is out there. What else can we take advantage of to just improve general sort of well-being? So that's sort of how it came about.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
right.
That sums it up. That sums it up so well. Like, if there's a term, that encapsulates everything you'd want in that niche, that's the word right there.
Yeah.
Ergogenic.
And I just had a quick look as well, and I seen that. So, is your dad a pharmacist?
Yeah. So yeah, my dad's a pharmacist.
I found it really interesting because I was like, well, obviously you'd have some sort of background just from even working for your dad or just knowing what he's into. And I found it really interesting that you took the natural path. You know what I mean? Like, your dad's obviously knows what he's talking about in terms of using supplementation, but you've obviously taken a different path. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, I had the opportunity to sort of go down that path, study pharmacology, things like that. But I was actually frustrated with Western medicine, in particular with like treating my own reflux. I used to get quite a lot of reflux and heartburn when I was younger. That's when I was like at a very young age, I was prescribed like Nexium, like proton pump inhibitors. And then I realized that was not the right answer to the reflux. Like, it wasn't solving the problem. It was just a band-aid. And it was actually causing nutrient deficiencies such as vitamin B12 and iron. And I was wondering why I was so tired. It's because I wasn't absorbing the nutrients you need to actually generate ATP. So yeah, sort of got a little bit frustrated with the Western medicine and how they treat using certain medications. I'm not fully against Western medicine. I still understand there's a time and place for them. It's not like I've picked the natural path and I'm only down that path.
Yeah.
Like, I still veer back and forth. Like, I mean, I still use various things that are not considered natural as well. So I mean, I'm basically just I do a lot of research and I make sure that whatever I'm using is like, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, good.
What would you say? So I think nootropics recently, especially with the rise of people like Ben Greenfield and others in that field, a lot of people are more aware of nootropics and cognitive function and cognitive health. What have you seen, like, in that shift mainly? How have you seen that shift come across, and what are the main things people are focusing on in that area at the moment?
Yeah, well, I think it's funny that whole term of like nootropics popularized back when, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Limitless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at like the Google trends, you'll see that back then everyone started searching for nootropics back when that movie was released. And obviously their expectations were inflated. Like, no, there's no such thing as an NZT pill that's going to unlock 80% of your brain or whatever. But there is, without a doubt, a wide variety of compounds that can definitely improve alertness, improve focus, improve memory, decision making, like things like that. So there's definitely, and I've experimented with like upwards of 200 different compounds over the past probably 5 years. And I always track and monitor everything as well. Like, I'm always documenting how I feel, how I'm performing, things like that. So it's a tedious process, but for those who want to get into it, like, yeah, there's definitely things that you like, even just adding like L-theanine to your coffee is a simple strategy for guys who want to sort of improve or unlock that flow state sort of thing.
What's L-theanine?
L-theanine. It's from green tea. Theanine. Yeah.
So that buffers, from what I've heard, I've only heard of people mentioning it in the gym, that buffers the effect of caffeine and I guess makes it like reduces the impact of the crash.
Yeah. So it does that. It also minimizes the blood pressure spike, and also reduces sort of the anxiety that some people get when they have caffeine as well. Okay. So yeah.
So when you look at these, when people are looking to develop different stacks, is that the main idea of developing a stack? Looking at, and I guess also looking at which compounds impact the others and complement the other compounds, and then kind of balance each other out and have that sort of synergistic effect. How much can you play within that? Can you just pick and choose and grab whatever you think works and see how it goes, or is there a limit to how much you can play around with that?
Yeah. Well, obviously it really does come back to, because like obviously we all have such unique brain chemistry. So like 100 milligrams of theanine for me may feel different for you. That's why I think it comes back to ruthless experimentation, and just becoming very aware of your physiology and how you feel. If there's one thing I couldn't stress enough, is to really try and develop that self-awareness. Like just really keep track of how you're feeling throughout the day. Really hone in on, is this compound good for me? What is it doing for me? How am I feeling? How am I responding? Like always ask yourself those questions, because without that, how can you see if anything's, it's always
having an impact.
Yeah. You always gotta remind yourself.
The other thing is as well, so this is just a recent thing that I've just been trying out Alpha Brain for the last probably 4 weeks now. And I guess it's obviously got a lot of hype about it, but I've seen some positive effects. And I know that real results take about 6 weeks before it fully kicks in. But how much would you say, and giving any sort of nootropic that's meant to be really, really successful for you, how much or how long would you say that for the placebo effects to end and the nootropic to really kick in?
Yeah, well, it just sort of depends on like the stack itself. So if you're using Alpha Brain, some of the ingredients in Alpha Brain would have an acute effect. Like some of them will have that immediate, within 2 to 3 hours, maybe an improvement in alertness or focus or things like that. But then there's other compounds that take upwards of 8 to 12 weeks to really show off their memory enhancing effects. So it depends on which compound we're looking at.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was looking at Alpha Brain, and I like Josh and I saw an article, so I guess that's where we found the biggest thing is, from what I'm seeing and trying to get as far as I can in my own journey with this, to just try and make sure I'm performing at my best, is trying to differentiate between what works and what doesn't work, because there's so much information out there. But Alpha Brain had a double-blind study done, and that was one of the ones that I guess stood out and was like, okay, I guess we can try that. And another one that has been really popularized, which I'm sure you've heard of, I'm keen to hear what you think on it, is Modafinil. Because I know for sure, like I've personally tried it just the one time, and I know that outside of, like, I know that, and Josh knows as well, for me, focus is a major issue at times. I need to do a lot of things to make sure I'm focused and can zone in on a block of work. And I know it was definitely easier when I tried Modafinil. And I wonder what your thoughts on it are.
Yeah. So I get asked this quite a lot about Modafinil. And it's good that you bring it up, because it is like very effective, and it does what it claims to do. It keeps you awake. So basically it's used to treat narcolepsy, which is like literally falling asleep disorder. But now there's more and more research coming out about Modafinil demonstrating positive effects in healthy adults. Like in healthy individuals without any issues, in terms of like focus, vigilance, alertness, and things like that. My stance on modafinil usage is responsible. Like I'm not someone who encourages abusing substances like that, because at the end of the day, you're going to be leading to, so what happens is, like, picture it as like here's your baseline. When you take modafinil, you're like 40-50% above your baseline. But then I go back to, well, how do you feel the next day? Like, have you crashed, come down? Like, how you feeling the next day? Because that matters to me, because I don't want to take something that makes me feel amazing, but then it's borrowing from the next day. I'm about, how can I take something that's going to give me benefits every single day without the come down, crash, and tolerance and things like that.
For me personally, I only use it the one time, which is not enough at all for a study, but I felt okay the next day. And the advice I was given on using it was to take it straight away when I wake up, which is usually pretty early. And then that way it won't impact sleep, because something negative I heard about it was taking it too late in the day would definitely have a major impact on the quality of your sleep, or even letting you fall asleep. I found it worked that one time, but I definitely lean towards anything natural. And that's just, I've got no other evidence to support that other than that's just what I feel more comfortable with. Like, things that are more natural seem to work with me. I would love to get everything from my own diet and from whatever other natural supplements are out there. But just quickly on nootropics here, when I was listening to a book by Ben Greenfield, it was just talking about how everything is, your mood, everything is impacted just based on like chemical imbalances or balances within the brain. What are the main things going on chemically to do with focus and to do with mood?
Okay, so those two areas, so like focus and mood specifically?
Yeah, specifically those two.
Okay, so, well, when it comes to focus, most people have insufficient or not enough either dopamine or acetylcholine. So they're like the two key neurotransmitters that basically keep you alert, and help you to concentrate, sort of thing. So there's two neurotransmitters, and there's many ways that we can sort of increase them or decrease them and hack them and things like that. Then your second point about mood, well, actually mood is regulated by dopamine again. So like, it's quite hard to not be in a good mood if you have high dopamine. Like, that's just like, that's the neurotransmitter that I spend majority of my time trying to increase. Because there's a lot of myths around serotonin, and you probably, a lot of antidepressants actually increase serotonin, but like, if I showed you some of the studies of what happens when you have high serotonin, you'd freak out in terms of
So what's serotonin responsible for again?
Yeah, so it's responsible for mood, but if you have too much serotonin, it actually lowers your dopamine. So, and actually majority of that is produced, 90% of your serotonin is actually produced in your gut. In terms of like some of the repercussions and side effects of too much serotonin, it can be things like diarrhea, social anxiety, excess worry, general just like brain fog, low energy, cold, low thyroid, low metabolism, weight gain. Like, it sort of all links. It's quite a complex picture, but yeah.
Awesome. So as well, so my partner's recently been studying naturopathy. She's doing a course that she started maybe 4 months ago, and she had a quick few questions for someone that's obviously a bit more further along. And she said, so at the moment she's about to go and pick like her major fields of study, and she's sort of interested in more so the naturopathy side of things, the things that she can get from natural foods, especially with gut health. She's been dealing with all sorts of things with her own gut health. And she was asking, what sort of fields would you recommend studying and focusing on?
Yeah, it's a good question, because you really want to sort of pick a couple of, or 2 or 3 areas that you want to specialize in. So I think gut health is like a massive area that a lot of people like nowadays are struggling with. And we can go into the reasons why, like in terms of glyphosate and things like that, and our environment and antibiotic usage and things like that. But I think, yeah, if she wants to specialize sort of in gut health and energy, fatigue, and sleep, like they're big areas that a lot of people struggle in. And so she can, provide support in that realm. There's no shortage of clients in that space. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay, good. And she was also asking, she said that there's a lot of rumors in terms of what's good and what's bad for gut health and what causes gut health. Like she was saying that she went to a naturopath maybe like this before she was studying, and she was saying like, oh, I'm always bloated. And she was saying that, well, the first question that she asks all of her clients is, are you chewing your food enough?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, right. I mean, you probably would like to blame it on something, but it could be something as simple as that. What other things do you think, like in terms of 80-20% principle, what things do you think that straight off the bat, 80% of your problems you could solve yourself by doing these certain things?
Well, for digestion, yeah, obviously chewing the foods, one of them. Another one would be starting your meals with like some sort of bitter, like if you start your meal with some sort of bitter drink or bitter food, for example, rocket. If you have just a little bit of rocket just before your meal, because it's so bitter, it's going to stimulate all of the digestive enzymes in your stomach and things like that. So yeah, or you can start your meal with like a really small amount of decaf coffee, or just coffee, like a small amount. It's enough to trigger stomach acid release and things like that. So I think, focusing on that bitter food component before your meals are really, smart strategy to sort of improve digestion.
Apple cider vinegar as well?
Yeah, I was going to mention that as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, right. So that just helps start getting it all fired up and ready to start digesting food, so it makes it a bit easier.
Yeah, so you're just basically priming your gut, like it's just like priming your stomach to get ready for. It's just helping the enzymes and stomach acid production, so that you can break down protein, fats, and things like that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And as well, we've been talking a bit in the last few episodes. What we're talking about, I think we were talking about alpha brain and a few different nootropics. And I think that we dropped way too much bro science in terms of how things work and what chemicals are sort of functioning. Could you give us like a brief breakdown of what's actually going on inside of yourself when you're putting in any sort of supplement, to be honest, anything that's going to try and enhance something? What are we really trying to do?
Yeah, so this is a fun one to answer. So when it comes to like some of the compounds and things like that, let's say we're looking at alpha brain, right? How many different ingredients? Was it like 14 or something? I can't remember.
Yeah.
So, all right. So first of all, we need to understand that these compounds, they actually need to cross the brain. So like there's something known as the blood-brain barrier. So first of all, we have to determine whether or not, and a lot of the compounds within alpha brain do, some of them probably don't, but it's okay. First of all, they have to cross the blood-brain barrier. Then once they get into the brain, what they do is they influence a variety of brain chemicals like neurotransmitters, but not in the same fashion as say speed, cocaine, like amphetamines. It's not to that same extent. They're more regulated. It's not going to be as intense, and hence why there's less side effects as with the heavy hitters. So yeah, in terms of the other thing that they do is that a lot of the compounds in there will influence growth factors in the brain. So they'll influence things like nerve growth factor, which is like, it's like fertilizer for your neurons. It just helps with the your neurons to proliferate and spread. And then it also, other growth factors such as like BDNF, which is brain derived neurotrophic factor, that basically increases the survival and strengthens the neuronal connections in different parts of the brain. But yeah, I mean, one thing to understand is that let's say we pick apart, let's say we're looking at one compound from alpha brain. Let's say we're looking at cat's claw. I know cat's claw is like and I've spoken to many people about why they put cat's claw in there, but we'll look at cat's claw. When we look at like what it's doing in the brain, the thing is we need to understand that cat's claw and these other compounds they're having, it's not just doing one thing, it's affecting multiple targets in the brain. It's not just targeting one neurotransmitter, it targets many. And they all target many. That's why it's so difficult to know exactly what's doing what. That's what makes these compounds, and the research is in rats and things like that. And it gets really complex when we're trying to understand exactly what is doing what, you know?
Yeah, when you've got so many different compounds in the one supplement.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend as sort of like a blanket of supplements or compounds to take I'm talking long term, because I guess if you're going to take any sort of, especially nootropic, if it's going to take 6 to 12 weeks to start showing effects anyway, I'm assuming that you're going to want to take something in the long term. So let's say that we pick however many that were needed over a long period of time. I'm talking maybe even for your entire life. What sort of compounds are we really trying to target and get more of?
Okay, so I would say things that are very neuroprotective. So like if you want to use something long term, making sure that it has that ability to cross the blood-brain barrier and then it have that neuroprotective effect. So protecting the brain against toxins, heavy metals, just damage. Even when we exercise and things like that, when we train, and I'll use this because I know you guys are into sports performance, but basically when we train, when we build up that lactic acid like that, which is the byproduct of. So actually lactic acid, also another compound gets produced called ammonia, which is another byproduct of exercise. And ammonia can cause crazy neurodegeneration. Like if you give a rat enough ammonia, it will start to lead to Alzheimer's and dementia and things like that. So focusing on, for example, something that will lower that ammonia will lead to improved brain function over time. So a good example of something that can do that is high dose vitamin B1. I've personally used that. I used it for a few months and I noticed just major improvements in mental clarity, mental focus, energy, things like that.
Okay. So in the area of high performance training or high performance athletics, which is what I guess all of us have experience with, I had one or two questions regarding that. Now, I'm in the middle of a fight camp at the moment. And for the first time ever in my life, I had a physical crash, which probably was a culmination of a few things which were identified later on. But it was a moment where I just wasn't actually physically able to do what I was instructed to do, and I just fell over. And looking into that, it actually made me really sit back. And I know I'm fairly healthy. I work with a dietitian, and my food is, I guess, somewhat planned for me, and I just make sure I do the meal prep and I cook. And it's more the other things, the other factors that I'm starting to realize more and more. Things like, for example, in this martial art thing, you're just constantly on, something we've talked about in the past. There's so much output you need mentally as well. When you rock up to the gym, and you need to be switched on. Some people will be in a different place to you energetically, so you need to be able to match that. And I realized that it can kind of really add up. So what would you say is the most ignored area in high performance training in regards to that area, in regards to output and, outside of just protein and BCAAs and your essential amino acids?
Yeah, I would say actually for majority of like high performance athletes, they don't place enough focus on sleep, like really nailing and optimizing their sleep. So yeah, I mean, aiming for, and again, it comes back to not only the duration of your sleep, but the quality of your sleep. So I mean, that's why I put together like a sleep optimize. I don't know if you had a chance to check that out. I've put together like a free sleep optimization course where I break down some strategies and things like that to improve sleep. And there's so many things we can do. For example, one that I don't know if you know whether or not, are you a mouth breather by any chance?
When I sleep, are you talking about when we're asleep?
Yeah.
When I'm asleep, I don't know, but I always monitor myself, and I don't breathe through my mouth in the stages when I'm falling, when I get to sleep. But who knows what I'm doing when I'm actually asleep?
I definitely do. I know I do.
Yeah.
How do you check that?
Oh, the only way I found out that I was a mouth breather was by taping my mouth before bed and waking up feeling so much more refreshed.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, genuinely.
Yeah, you know, there's a coach at the gym, Dan Howard, and when we do our threshold training and our VO2 training, he encourages us to breathe through our nose as much as possible. And just last week, on the same day that I actually had my crash, we were doing interval work on the assault bike, and he mentioned to us, guys, if you tape your mouth while you're asleep, there are some short-term benefits of up to like, I'm not going to rip what percentages he said, but there was a significant enough percentage increase in your VO2 max in the short term, in the first few weeks of just taping your mouth while you sleep.
That's awesome. I've never seen, but I could understand the mechanisms. I did I'm going to be doing a post on IGTV explaining the benefits of mouth taping soon. But yeah, like basically what it does is like, because when you're blocking your mouth, you're forcing it through your nose. But keep in mind that, when you look up, when you buy pre-workouts, they say increases nitric oxide, increases the pump. Yeah. The pump and nitric oxide. So basically, there'll be compounds such as citrulline, arginine, whatever. They do help with nitric oxide. But guess what? Majority of your nitric oxide is actually made in your nose. So if you're not breathing, if you've got a blocked nose, or if you've got just always got a blocked nose, things like that, that can affect your total nitric oxide production. That can be one reason why, and this is why, like, I do a lot of talking on men's hormonal health. That can be one reason why guys are not waking up with morning wood, because they have a blocked nose. Something simple as that.
And I know you've done a lot of work in regards to boosting your own testosterone and using yourself as a test subject. And one of the only things that I've employed fairly consistently in the past 6 months has just been cold exposure. But I haven't gone to the extremes, which I'm sure you've probably been asked many, many times, of actually icing your testicles. But I have been going into the ocean since winter till now, except for a little hiatus there, fairly consistently a few days a week. And as funny as this is, as Josh knows, like, I get zero facial hair, as you can tell. Like, it's just not happening. It's not happening. Never has. It's not going to happen. And just recently, I actually started noticing that I was actually getting more more facial hair than I would ever have actually even seen. And I was wondering if that had anything to do with the cold exposure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's a potential there. I mean, I was featured on the radio a couple of times talking about the icing of the balls. And I set up a whole Facebook group dedicated to that practice. But I mean, when I first started doing that, it would have been 2 New Year's Eves ago. It was quite a while ago. I haven't stopped doing it, and I don't think I ever will, because genuinely, like, and the guys that start doing it, they all say the same thing. They just feel the benefits. They feel better mood, higher sex drive, more frequent morning wood, just more aggression in the gym. Like, I'll in particular, I'll make sure I bring an ice pack, like, on the way to the gym.
Like before training, you're saying?
Always before training. Always.
Yeah, right. And how long and how soon before?
About like, you only need like 10 to 15 minutes. So yeah,
just in the car.
Yeah.
Way there.
Oh yeah, you got to be careful. The cops might arrest you for like.
Yeah, right.
If you wear a mask, you should be fine at this stage. But yeah, look, have you had any experience with cold exposure outside of icing your testicles? Because I know personally, and it was interesting to read or to listen to the audiobook by Ben Greenfield when he talked about a lot of the things that that you bring it up. And I noticed that, especially regarding mood and regarding, like in particular, mood and recovery. When I hop in the ocean, these things are dramatically improved. On a day where I am super stressed, or if there's just a lot of things going on, I know for a fact now that when I go into the ocean, it's like it just seeps out of me. Even though I know that's not what is actually happening, I know that the cold exposure has an impact on me neurologically. And do you have any experience with that yourself, with much cold exposure?
Oh, for sure. I mean, when I was playing professional like football, I was making the most of that. Like I was jumping in the beach, like particularly after games and things like that. And I just always felt the next day that the DOMS, like the muscle soreness, was reduced significantly. And also, you're right, there was some sort of like a psychological relaxation effect. You feel more grounded. Plus, it's also, you're going to be getting the benefits of the cold exposure, causing that vasoconstriction, which is like the opposite of what I just spoke about to nitric oxide. And part of that is going to lead to a rebound elevation in blood flow. So you get like a constriction, and then once you get out, the best strategy, like honestly, when I was, I was part of this program at Amy Park. I used to train at Amy Park in there, like in there, they had ice baths there, but they also had the spas. So the contrast therapy there was like insane. I actually always used to feel, I genuinely came out of there feeling euphoric every time.
Yeah, something positive about that. And I want to get into the products that you have and the services that you have as well, because I know you're doing a lot of work in developing that. But just want to step away quickly. Josh and I always step away a little bit in these podcasts and just throw out like just a random question just to switch things up. And I hate to keep reusing this one since Josh has brought it up, but it's a great one. What are your thoughts on the nature of reality and just this thing that we're in, just the fact that we're alive? Because one of the reasons we have you on is we definitely consider you a player one. To us, a player one is, and the philosophy that we always engage with is living this life as though we're player one in a game, to do with simulation theory and whatnot. And a player one is someone who just goes out there and pursues his own pathway and just blazes his own trail. And you're definitely doing that. We're all doing that in our own way. So what are your thoughts on just this thing that we're in, just life in general, the nature of reality?
Yeah, that's a deep question for a Monday morning, but I mean, yeah, it's a cool one. So, well, what's the quote is like, what life, a lot of people think that life happens to them, not for them. And I think that that does resonate with me, because I do feel like everything that you see in your world is just your projection, like your perception of the world. And a lot of that comes back to how you're feeling within. So like, for example, when I feel angry and irritable, everything else in the world looks that same way, whereas if I'm in a very positive, uplifted, relaxed state, everything else looks like, the same way. So I guess like, yeah, do the inner work and focus on like getting your mind right, because then your perception of the world will completely shift. So
yeah.
And it's inevitable that we run into difficulty, like regardless of what journey you're on. You can just tell just by this year in itself, COVID has come out of nowhere and it's thrown things into a muck for everyone. What is something that you do, or in fact, what is something you've done in the past that in hindsight, which is always 2020, has helped you get past difficulty or get past a really difficult situation?
Actually, probably just reaching out to like people in my support network, like just avoiding keeping things within, like the more you, and particularly as like for men in general, like we don't like to vocalize and express how we feel because we think that's weak and We're not strong men. We're not the typical macho male. But what's courageous and what shows strength is being able to be vulnerable and open up and express how you're feeling. For example, literally yesterday, there's a lot of emotional baggage that I'm carrying right now with a lot of things that's going on. And I booked in to see a counselor. Like I needed to speak to someone.
Dude, that's spot on. That's like something a lot of the people, and it's not like, as you said, it's courageous. It takes more strength to do that in this society than many other things. And you see people like Israel Adesanya, who is the UFC middleweight champion. He's on a tear. A lot of people are hearing about him. And something he did very early on when he first entered the UFC was book in to see a counselor in advance, to see a psychologist in advance. Just whatever was going on in his own life is probably whatever was going on. But the fact that he did that and was open about it shows that the people at the very highest level that you would say are the top of this alpha male type of thing, it's combat sports and whatnot, are doing these same things. That's how important it is. Yeah. And it's actually a major skill set. It's a major tool to have, which I realized. You can have many tools to deal with many different situations. And closing yourself off from reaching out, you're limiting yourself from one of the most effective tools to get past something that could snowball into something else. Massive.
100%. The other thing to add to that is, we might view people as if they've got their shit together, but like deep down, like
no one does.
No, man. Nope.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's it. That's 100% true.
It's just as well, like if this whole podcast is about our journey in reaching our full potential and sharing it along the way, and a part of that potential is going to be unlocked through your mentality. And if you have a very closed off mentality because for whatever reason you don't want to say some things, I mean, this podcast alone has brought out things not only from Sam and I, but even just from a few guests that we've had on that probably weren't expecting a question like that, and then the next thing they know, they've said something personal and they're okay with that, and it's that sort of culture that I'm pretty happy to create and to get out of people and to get out of myself, because how else are you going to realize your potential if you're closing yourself off, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, I'm pleased that you guys are doing what you're doing. That's why when you first reached out, I'm like, yeah, you know what, good on you guys. Like, I'll back you, I'll support you guys in whatever you're trying to do, because I know how it feels to just get something off the ground. And I can see that the message and your mission is like, it's a respect. I respect it a lot. So keep going, guys. Like, it's good.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And just quickly, again, coming full circle, I know we like to do this a bit, but as well with cold exposure, I don't know if I got this in my own head or if someone told me, I'm not sure, but is it a bad thing to have too much cold exposure on your brain?
As in, like to underwater, like?
Yeah. Or like, I know that I just finished all my showers on cold. I know that's not very cold at all. But for example, just let's say that, because we did this in the ocean one time, me and Sam, and it was very cold, and you put your head under too long, then you sort of lose function of your own limbs. And I could understand how that's dangerous if I'm in the open ocean. But let's say that it was controlled and I'm not going to drown. Is it still a bad thing to have too much cold exposure on your brain?
I would be very careful with like how many seconds you're going under, because remember, the brain needs a constant supply of glucose and oxygen, and even like 2 seconds without sufficient oxygen can cause a stroke. So I would just say, be careful. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, right. Not going to risk that.
Good. Right, just to clear that one up. I'm happy with that. Also, I have one more. Again, this is absolute me just guessing, but a few weeks ago, I felt one morning as if I'd been poisoned, and I wasn't sure why. I didn't really have any changes, and I just decided, I don't know why this was my decision, but I'm like, I'm just going to have only alkaline water from now on. And I've read a little bit about it, and I can see that there's some studies done about alkaline water not having the right minerals, and it's saying that it zaps out the minerals from the water. But then I also heard that it only takes out the minerals that aren't supposed to be there in the first place. is there, or do you know anything about any sort of studies about alkaline water?
Geez, I personally haven't researched much into that sort of space. Like, I'd have to do a bit more like research, but I guess like it comes back to like how you're responding, like since you
I feel
started.
great.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I think like if you're noticing benefits and like there's the risk to safety ratio is like okay, then sorry, risk to reward ratio is okay, then I think yeah, if you're responding well, then by all means like continue on with it. And what do you think triggered like you to feel like feeling poisoned, like just very
Yeah, I'm not too sure. And honestly, it could have been a bit of placebo as well, but it lasted for about 3 days. And I didn't do anything out of the ordinary in terms of my eating or anything like that. And I just felt just sick. I didn't want to eat anything. And I just felt, I don't know, just very yuck. And I just had like a 24-hour fast and I only drank alkaline water. I'm not too sure why I decided to do that, but I did. And then after it, I felt great. So I thought, and again, it could have been the fasting, but I just decided I'm only going to drink alkaline water from now on. So I just buy the BPA friendly casks and just have the 10-liter alkaline water. I get 2 of them a week and I just feel great. I don't know why it is, but I did a little bit of reading and it did say that in terms of like, even this is, again, I'm thinking long-term as well, in terms of having too much fluoride in normal tap water. I didn't like that it could do that to your pineal gland. So I was like, okay, it's probably not a good thing to have too much fluoride, so I may as well do that.
Yeah. Oh, geez, fluoride's a whole nother topic. Like, yeah, we could go down a rabbit hole there for sure.
Could we actually? Because I'm half on this because I'm seeing some research done in terms of fluoride helping build calcium or help with strong teeth, but then I'm seeing bad effects in terms of calcifying your pineal glands, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you got to look at it based on even though we're having very small amounts, like let's say very, very small amounts in our tap water and things like that, it's the chronic exposure that leads to the issues. It's not as if you're having it like maybe once a week or whatever. It's the fact that we're using it so consistently and now it's starting to build up and our body's detoxification ability is now, we're not able to clear it out. That's when we start to run into issues in terms of like blood sugar regulation, thyroid function, melatonin production can. I know I've got a friend that he's deliberately taking massive doses of melatonin to detoxify his pineal gland from fluoride. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a pretty controversial topic, and yeah, I mean.
If you were ever interested or you ever have the spare time, and if you did a study or research on the effects of fluoride and alkaline water, I would 100% be down because I want to know that I'm going to keep doing it regardless, to be honest, because I feel good. But I would really like to see some study done against it to know that it makes sense. You know what I mean? At the moment, it's just a gut feeling, and I would like to see some science behind it.
Yeah,
I was just gonna. Sorry, go on.
I was just saying, I'll once I do find the research or whatever, I'll just flick them through to you. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
I was just going to ask about what's on the horizon for yourself and for Ergogenic Health, product-wise, service-wise. What are some things you're looking into now, and what's the end of 2020 and 2021 going to look like for you?
Man, yeah, big like big plans, to be honest.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going as hard as I can, really. So, well, I'm in the process of getting like some mentorship to help structure out like my business and things like that. But yeah, for me, it's like focusing on developing content and building out my webinars, because right now they're on my website, selling them, like people gaining a lot of value. But I want to develop, like I want heaps. I want to have like at least 10 webinars for different topics.
Yeah.
And then continuously add like sort of new products to my website. So I'm listing various supplements and things like that for like mood, energy, focus, sleep, things like that. So continuing to add new products to my site. And then there's just like a million different collaboration opportunities that come my way just by putting good content out. Like that's my goal. Like just put it out there, you know.
Man, that's honestly, it's so evident by just a glance at your page, and then it's so aesthetically pleasing that and it's like the main gist of each post is right there. So you click onto it and you just hit with this really well packaged, quite clearly well evidenced research. And it's so refreshing to see that I wish, of course, all of social media was like that, but it's not. But it makes you stand out. It really does. And it's no surprise that it leads to other opportunities and people wanting to work with you. Like even from my own point of view, even outside of being an athlete and just as an individual who's very health conscious, I would definitely look at your page and say that's someone I would want to consult with or work with and work towards being a better version of myself, performance wise or just lifestyle wise. It's just, yeah, it's really valid what you're putting out there.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
What was the like, when did things turn, I guess, when did you turn the hill in your social media and your podcast and your other products starting to boost forward business wise and in terms of audience?
Geez, I would say probably like 6 months ago when I started getting recognition like from like very influential doctors and things like that from the US. And then all they did was like when they reshared my post, that's when I like gained a lot of traction because they're like, basically my goal at the start of my whole page was to wave my flag, literally just to wave a flag saying, hey, everyone, I know my shit. Like, I know what I'm talking about. Like, and just share my stuff because like I can add a lot of value. So yeah, in the early days, it was literally like, I've got an Excel sheet with like a list of, I don't know if you've seen that, but I've got a sheet that has like, every day I add topics to it. I've got like 1900 like scheduled topics and post ideas. They're just crazy. All these ideas come to me when I'm doing the dishes. It's so whack.
Mate, one thing you posted recently, I got two questions here that I've been one of the things I've supplemented for close to 6 months now has been a blend of the main mushrooms in mycology. So let me grab the pack. It's actually right here. And no, it's not right there. It's called Harmony. It's called Harmony Blend. It has cordyceps, lion's mane, shiitake, and one other main mushroom in there. The thing is that it has the powder and also has the mycelium. And I was wondering if is there really a benefit to having the mycelium in that, just because it's a bit of it doesn't dissolve, so it's that final bit at the end of your coffee or smoothie that you really feel. I'm not too sure if you've used any of these products with also the mycelium, and is there any benefit to having it included in there?
Well, as soon as you said you're using a mushroom product, like I used cordyceps for probably like 3.5 to 4 years straight. Like when I was playing, it was my go-to. I loved it so much for general like lung function and testosterone and things like that. But yeah, I mean, you just got to be, there's only like a few things. I've done a few blog posts about lion's mane. And again, this is going to be quite controversial, but I personally, I'm not really a fan of lion's mane purely based on the fact that it can lower the strongest form of testosterone in men, DHT. So like it can lower DHT. So that's like, you can get a lot of side effects from that. So I'm not really, I'm trying to do my best in spreading that message about guys need to be sort of careful with lion's mane, just in terms of like DHT and testosterone and things like that.
Okay. I've been feeling good since using it and since having it consistently. So it's one of those things, I guess I'm going to something you mentioned at the start, tracking personal performance, self-awareness. That's a big key. When you mentioned that, that clicked. Okay, that's something I'll do much more of, and see maybe if I try without or with, but just track how I feel on using all these things, other than just taking in and then going with that. Yeah, just trying to track where I'm at and how I respond personally.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it makes the most sense. My partner was actually saying something sort of similar, and someone asked her that question because she's been studying for a few months now, naturopathy, and she was saying someone asked her, "What's the key takeaway that you've probably found out so far?" And she said to try and keep everything as simple and natural as possible. And I'm not saying natural as in like your foods, that's sort of obvious, but I'm even saying like natural as in not trying to overcook everything or add everything to the food or whatever it is. She's saying like keep it simple and just sort of try and eat things in its raw form. What would you say about that in terms of a key takeaway for naturopathy?
Yeah, well, from a naturopathic point of view, we really want to be basically going as close to nature as possible. Like that's what she's referring to. Like, yeah trying to go. The whole reason for like biohacking and things like that is that we're trying to basically make up for the fact that we're going so far away from nature now. That's the whole point. If we lived in a world that was like, let's say we're living in I don't know, like in a jungle or whatever, hunting our food, foraging, things like that, then we likely wouldn't be having the same sort of health issues that we have. So yeah, definitely, she's definitely spot on there for sure.
Even mentally as well, because for me this year, when I was having a rough time mentally, and I felt for sure I was low in certain areas, one thing that massively helped me outside of monitoring what I eat, which was the first thing I started to do, to pay more attention to, was to get outside much more. Get outside as soon as I have that free time, or it's time to eat lunch or whatever meal of the day. I'll make sure I do it outside. I'll take my meal. I'll head out. There's a golf course near here in St Kilda, just at Albert Park Lake, and right now no one's using it. So that's been my little like hideaway spot. I'll just take my bike down there. And then even things like grounding, which I know some people are still skeptical about, but definitely helps me just to get I'll just go there in my slides, take them off, walk around on the grass. You're sitting with the birds, like you feel different. You definitely feel different, even eating outside. And then coming back inside again, you realize, for me, I realized like, wow, this is how I feel just from spending more time outdoors. Even if it's time to read, do that outdoors. Whatever excuse I can get to get outdoors, for me, I would take. I would feel like, I was talking to a friend, Ivana, about this, and like when you're indoors, for both of us, we agreed, feels like my energy levels and my energy in general can just get stagnant, and just the idea of a stagnant lake, a stagnant pond, anything too still for too long, it just invites the wrong things that will spoil that pond or spoil that water. So it's like getting outdoors, make sure I'm not stagnant, make sure things are flowing. It was one of the main things that definitely helped me just raise my energy levels, feel much, much better.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, man. I feel the same way. And then one thing, the best thing that I did, although it's not outdoors, is at the start of lockdown, I got myself a walking treadmill desk. It was the best thing I ever bought. I'm looking at it right now. It's like, yeah, just I'm now hitting like 20 to 25,000 steps a day. And I'm getting like lean. I'm not changing my diet, but I've just dropped like insane amount of body fat. And it's so easy. I'm just like, this is so easy.
You find it hard to work even though you're walking?
At the start I did for like the first couple of weeks, and then like it just, it's pretty easy. I'll just drop it down to like 5 kilometers an hour. But yeah, I'm still able to type. It's fine. Like, yeah, you get good at it real quick.
Yeah. Those are the good habits to like implement early on, like these will pay dividends. And one of the last questions that I wrote down here was, what are those things? For me, I'm always looking long term, and same as Josh, and even looking beyond fighting and looking what happens after, and trying to prepare for old age, I guess, as early on as possible. What are one or two, I wouldn't even say supplements, what are one or two things to consider in the long term that you would recommend as best practices to adopt with the advantage of time?
Okay. Well, the first one would be to make sure that you don't have like unstable blood sugar. So like focusing on keeping your blood sugar stable will prevent many diseases. So that's probably number one. Number two would to be making sure that you're not deficient in any of the vitamins, like not just vitamin D, but like other minerals and things like that, to make sure that you're checking in on your magnesium, like your zinc, making sure that your vitamins are on point, because any deficiency in any of the vitamins will lead to faster aging and degeneration. So that's probably the main ones.
And you can just check that through a blood test?
Okay, yeah. Plus.
Yeah.
So I think you have a product on your store. I've seen. I'm not 100% sure, but actually I can get it right in front of me. So this product, the epigenetic testing for the Trojan, what does that do exactly?
Yeah, I'm still waiting on my kit to arrive. It's coming from the States, but basically it gives you a description of your biological age. So basically it does that through understanding your DNA methylation. So if you want to understand like more about your age and things that can affect the speed at which you age, that kit basically gives you a summary into how certain medications are going to affect you, how certain foods will affect the rate at which you're aging and things like that. So it's very like customized and personalized. And
this is also another, I don't know if this is what it does, but I've been looking a lot into, I don't even know what we call this search or this term, but into just DNA structure and what my DNA makeup is, and sort of what's going to affect me in certain ways based on my DNA. What test can I do to see exactly what my genomes are that I carry? Is that through epigenetic testing?
So you can do the 23andMe test. That's the one, I've done that as well. That basically takes a snapshot of your like various sort of polymorphisms and things like that. It's pretty useful. Once you get the data, you have to then upload it into a different sort of platform because then they show you what it means. Because like the raw data is like overwhelming. It's just like different, like it's like I've got the folder on my computer here. I'll double click it, open the folder, and there's literally just like thousands of different like codes and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's but that would be a different product from the epigenetic testing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So is that like when someone does a test and they say I'm 24, but then their biological age says, oh, you're actually 47.
Yeah.
So like obviously you've got some sort of imbalances that you need to fix up.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I know I promised you a 45-minute podcast. So thanks for sticking around and for giving us all the knowledge, dropping all these gems. I guess it's a bit different from the bro scientists that they're used to hearing from us. Finally, they get someone who's legitimate and knows what he's talking about. And of course, we're going to hope to send a lot of people your way. Is there anything are there any products in particular that you want people to look out for from Ergogenic Health?
Well, just the one thing that I'd encourage them to do is just join my free newsletter. I've got they can just join that on my site. We can leave a link. I'll send you a link. That's where I'm going to start. Because I'm just I got to be careful with what I post on Instagram, because a lot of the stuff can be banned because it's censorship and all that bullshit. So like just joining my newsletter, because that's mine. Like, you know what I mean? So that's probably the one thing. I'm gonna have to shoot, guys, but it's been fun chatting with you. It was a shame we couldn't do face to face, but still it was all right.
Yeah, 100%. I'm sure we'll probably do this again in the future as well. So.
When things open up for a face-to-face podcast, we'll hit you up and let's tee it up.
Yeah, we can even do a gym session or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Run you through some pad work.
Destroy me.
Awesome, brother.
It was good to meet you.
Take care, mate.
All right, lads. Take care.
Bye.
See ya.